Hey, I'm Mary.
And I'm Jake.
And you're listening to The Fly Angle, the official RDU Airport podcast. Thank you for joining us for The Fly Angle episode 19.
It's good to be back here, Mary.
Yeah, Jake, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Well, we're right in the thick of holiday travel season, so I feel like we've been staying pretty busy. I know you've been staying busy.
Very busy. I know you have too, likewise.
Hey, Mary, what did you think of that interview with Kirsten Nicholas, our recruiting director?
Very cool. And I've had a lot of feedback from folks here at the airport that they really enjoy just kind of learning more about what goes into recruiting. They may not have directly worked with our HR team or Kirsten in particular, so they were excited to hear about it, and hopefully our listeners found it pretty helpful too about opportunities here.
Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback from the community after we put that episode out, and if you haven't listened to that episode, or if you're in the market for maybe finding a new career that might happen to be at the airport, whether it's with RDU or one of our tenants, airline, a concessionaire, you name it, I would strongly encourage you to go back and listen to episode 18 if you haven't already. That's with Kirsten Nicholas, talking about all things about airport life and what it's like to work here. And she gives some great information about how you can get started if you are interested in working here.
Exactly. I like it. And this episode, it is going to be very exciting. We've got something special.
Yeah, we have been wanting to get some other airports involved in our podcast for some time. And I'd say we've done that in spades in this episode. We've got not one, but two airports represented. So
stick around. Tuned. Absolutely.
So Mary, it's getting into almost winter travel. You got anything fun coming up on your end? Are you flying anywhere fun?
I don't have anything on my radar. However, all my family and friends are in upstate New York, and I think they're checking out RDU to figure out what connectivity they can get to get down here.
Yeah, they're flying south.
Exactly.
For sure.
What about you?
So last winter, I went and did a long weekend in Miami, down to the beach and, hung out. That was awesome, obviously. So I haven't decided yet. I may go south again. We'll see. I think I may have to go to Chicago in December, which is the opposite.
Oh, no.
But I have a lot of great friends, and obviously, any chance to go see ORD in person is a fun one.
That's true.
It's a great city, obviously. So
flying into that city is like one of the coolest things to do. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, I think we have a cool airmail question, speaking of which.
We do, and I think you guys are going to be interested in it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Our airmail question this episode comes from Karina, who asks, I was wondering if you could mention if RDU will be implementing Clear. I believe I read somewhere that it might be coming.
Karina, you read right. It is. RDU will be adding Clear expedited security lanes in both terminals at RDU. So, Jake, kind of talk about what Clear is.
Yeah, so for our listeners who aren't familiar with this program, this is actually one of maybe the most common questions we get on social media is, when are you getting Clear? We have TSA pre-check, but have not had this program until now. So what is Clear? Clear's biometrics identification program allows approved travelers to verify their identity with their eyes or fingerprints without showing an ID. It's a cool system. It'll be available in Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. With several verification kiosks in each terminal. We're expecting that will begin operating here at RDU by early 2023, so very soon. I totally would encourage you to read about it. Go look them up. It's clearme.com. Clearme.com. Great program they offer. We've been wanting to, get involved with them for some time, and now we can finally get it across the finish line. But like I said, as always, both terminals at RDU continue to offer TSA PreCheck. You can learn more about that program at tsa.gov. We're absolutely in the business of moving people through swiftly and easily, and Clear is only going to make that easier.
Well, Jake, I'm looking forward to it. Again, that website is clearme.com. That's a pretty cool site.
Yeah. Hey, Mary, you want to get into some headlines?
Sure. There's lots of air service news at RDU lately. First up, we have a new airline partner, Breeze. Yes. Breeze Airways will add service to New Orleans, one of my favorite places, Hartford, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island. And Breeze makes 14 airlines operating here at RDU.
That is awesome.
So awesome.
So I've been thinking about Breeze as a possible RDU airline since they were first announced in 2021. They're just a startup airline. They're from Utah. So service from Breeze at RDU begins February 16th and then February 17th as well. Their business model centers around offering affordable fares with plenty of perks, including no change and cancellation fees up to 15 minutes prior to departure. Yeah. free family seating, enhanced seating options, including extra legroom, first-class seats. You can choose as a guest from a la carte or bundled options to create a travel experience that meets your needs. So they're going to be flying those routes on an A220 aircraft. Man, I'm really excited
Customizable
to get that beautiful
air
blue
service.
aircraft on the ramp at RDU.
That's right.
I think when they first made their initial volley of route announcements and destinations, I think a lot of people were, intrigued that RDU wasn't on that initial list. But it's a great partnership. So much about it makes sense. This market is really attuned to that kind of experience. And everything I've heard about Breeze is just, really encouraging. They are a cool airline that are doing some really, innovative things. Check them out. Tickets are on sale now. Those flights begin February 16th.
Right, and more hot off the press, more buzz here at RDU. Avelo Airlines announced that it's adding flights to 6 Florida cities in February, so it might just get there, Jake, on that destination you were talking about. They will not only do that, but they're basing an airplane and a crew right here at RDU, totaling more than 50 jobs added. That's really awesome.
Yeah, the crew base announcement from Avelo is a really big deal. Let me tell you why this is important for us. That's an investment in our community. It's an investment in RDU as a rapidly growing airport. On the Avelo side, it gives Avelo a lot more flexibility out of the Raleigh-Durham market. It represents their growing commitment to the market and region. They clearly see us on the upswing, not only as an airport, but also as a community who are interested in flying, particularly leisure travel. So those new routes are Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Bradenton, and West Palm Beach.
Yes,
so a lot of Florida,
Sunshine.
They debuted earlier in 2022 with their nonstop route to New Haven, Connecticut. Right. Obviously big connectivity in New England that is important to this region. But that Florida connectivity, man, what a cool investment that is.
Yeah, and what's the plane they're going to be flying?
Boeing 737 Next Gen here at RDU. And I believe they're planning on adding a second NG aircraft by mid-2023. So that's a really cool investment as well. I'm really excited about this one.
Great investment here.
When you see Avelo and Breeze disrupting the experience in such a positive way for flyers.
Right.
Particularly, as RDU's, we've talked about this in previous episodes, that RDU's passenger mix is shifting dramatically. It's, we're adding a lot more leisure flyers and as we've joked, bleisure flyers. So having these options, I was thinking about the West Palm route. I can't wait to take that. I've got family in West Palm. I can't wait to go see them. And it's going to be super affordable to do it.
Right.
So, those tickets are on sale now.
That's right. And we talk about this as well, Jake, just the diverse airline mix. 14 airlines operating here at RDU. Not only does that add connectivity, but that keeps the prices down too. So we can get you in the air and where you want to be.
And speaking of those 14 airlines, we had another one that just launched, right?
That's right. The debut of Bahamas Air, which we've talked about on the podcast in the past, but new nonstop service to Freeport with connecting service onward to Nassau, right?
Yeah, we had a great kickoff event with them. We had the Ministry of Tourism from the Bahamas come up from the islands, and we had the food, the sights, the sounds. Oh, it was so great. We had such a great experience with them, and so they're going to be flying that service year round, actually, twice weekly on a Boeing 737-700. And really, this route to the Bahamas is kind of indicative of that growing international interest from both flyers and airlines at RDU. It'll be really interesting to see how that continues to develop. As you know, RDU serves its international arrivals and departures out of Terminal 2. So we're continuing to invest over the next couple of years in the landside facilities at Terminal 2, including that customs facility. As those things continue to percolate and happen, I'm curious to see who's next.
Right?
You know?
I know. When we were listening to our CEO speak the other day, I was just blown away by the amount of infrastructure and growth and development that's going to happen over the next 10 years. We talk about Vision 2040. We are living this and we're watching this growth explosion just happen in front of our eyes. But for the traveling customer that hasn't been at RDU, we really have a gold mine here. We're so lucky to have the level of connectivity in an airport. I mean, I'm a little biased, but we have an awesome airport.
Well, that settles it. Next episode, Mary and I are going to record it with hard hats on. It's with all the construction
they are not
going
ready.
on.
I love it.
So we always love the chance to meet our counterparts from airports around the country. Today, we have a great special guest who just wrapped up a 5-year tenure as the digital content coordinator at Albuquerque International Sunport in New Mexico. Stephanie Kitts, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, Stephanie.
Yeah, I was going to say, what you can't see, you can hear us, but what you can't see is we're actually in Albuquerque right now. So this is doubly special for the Fly Angle.
Yes.
Special road show.
Yes, and we had the opportunity to listen to a presentation from Stephanie about her work at Albuquerque and just the community, and I was fascinated by all you had to offer and the depth of your experience, and especially in the airport world. You know, we're different, and so it's lovely to kind of hear people talk the same language, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love being around airport people.
So for our listeners back home in North Carolina, tell us a little bit about the Sunport and even about Albuquerque.
Sure. So one thing I always like to tell people about the Sunport is our airport code is ABQ, but nobody ever calls it that, right? We're the Sunport. Nobody really knows what a Sunport is, but we embrace it and we love it.
You know it when you see it.
Yeah, right. You definitely know as soon as you step off the plane where you are. We're known for our distinct Southwestern architecture, our art program, and we really embrace the culture of our state. People are just very attuned to where they are when they're in New Mexico, whether they're native or not. And that's something that we embrace at the airport and we take great pride in. So we're considered a medium hub airport. We have just over 5 million passengers a year, 24 gates. 2 of those are commuter. We have 8 major airlines, 2 commuter airlines, 3 cargo carriers, and over 20 destinations.
Wow.
And so it's, I'm guessing, a mix of business and leisure.
Yeah, it's pretty even for us. You know, a lot of people coming out of the pandemic are seeing big shifts, you know, to the leisure side. For us, it's always been a pretty even split. So we haven't seen a ton of change post-pandemic, but I think, you know, we're getting also into this bleisure type stuff. And so we do still have business travel, but I would say it looks different these days.
Our CEO jokes about seeing guys with sport coats and flip-flops in RD's terminal. So
yeah, new customer. Well, I have to, give you compliments, because when Jake and I stepped off the plane, we felt that. We looked down, we looked up and around, and we were just like, wow, we're in New Mexico. So you've achieved that part of your mission, and it was a great welcome. One of the other things that as we were walking to get our bags, you guys have an observation deck inside the terminal.
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing, right? Like, you think that's cool. I've been noticing that all these other airports are now having these outdoor observation areas. And I'm bringing this to the team, and I'm like, you know, we're about to undergo a huge renovation project. And I'm like, okay, this is the time to do it. Like, we need an outdoor deck. We have more than 300 days of sunshine here. Yeah. We're known for having great weather.
If there's one town to do it in, it's Albuquerque.
Yeah. Hot air balloons.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the time to do it. And everybody's, you know, no, we're not interested. And I think our observation deck is cool. Don't get me wrong. I spent a ton of time up there when I worked at the airport, even before I worked at the airport. But there's just something to be said about being outside on the airfield with the planes, you know?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
And I think it all comes down to the view too, right? Yep. We have a couple of different great spotting locations at RDU. Our observation park is actually not always the preferred spotting location because it is part of the runway is obscured, so you may not get the touchdown moment or the takeoff moment. There's another location that they love to go to. I also love to go to, but that's so interesting to hear. I didn't really think about until this moment that when you have like the city of like 300 days of sunshine a year, like you probably want to have that outside.
Yeah. Right.
But I thought about it this week a lot, and you mentioned culture, and the Sunport seems to really have such a strong bead on New Mexican culture. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys noticed this when you got off the plane. Our floors are mainly brick. We do have some carpet, which is also very distinct.
Yes.
But it's the brick floors, and people around here either love it or hate it because it is pretty noisy when you've got your little rolly bag, right? And it's also very non-traditional, especially for an airport. But for us, that's very distinct and traditional.
Architectural cues from the community.
If you go into any older Southwestern home, restaurant, even this hotel, you're going to see brick floors, you're going to see wood beams, and tons of Native American artwork, both in the beams and on the walls. And so those are also 3 very distinct things that you see at the airport. And natives especially, but even visitors love it. And even as we continue to modernize the airport, we go through these construction projects, we're bringing all the things that people request, great Wi-Fi, outlets, all those things, but we're still keeping it Southwestern and New Mexican.
I love that. And I've experienced that talking to you and just kind of getting out and about. You have a strong sense of community. And like Jake said, the culture, you can feel the culture and really embracing it. Are there other ways that you guys are intentional about including your community and embracing that culture at the airport?
Yeah, all of the artwork in the airport is done by local artists or native New Mexicans, even if they've moved to other places. We also have a live music program where it's all local artists that perform typically 2 days a week. We do community events. We partner with local sports teams, our local university. And I think particularly as it pertains to concessions and those things, all of the restaurants in the airport currently are local. The owners and the folks that run the concessions are native New Mexicans. And I think even going into this construction project, we're going to be going out to RFP for new concessionaires, but there's going to be still that focus on local community, recognizable names, brands, those kind of things.
So I'm glad you mentioned the local food. RDU is very similar. We've been trending towards having local operators, and obviously passengers they love it. I love it as a foodie. But I have a food question for you. 3 times this week I've heard red, green, or Christmas, and I was hoping you could unpack that for us a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with you, so I know that you understand what it is and you're embracing it, which I really appreciate. But that is actually our state question, red or green. And you automatically look like a tourist if you don't know how to answer that question. It's our chili culture, right? So most people outside of New Mexico, when they hear the word chili, they think of bean chili, like what goes on Frito pie. For us, it's actually a crop. It's a pepper, and you can have it either red or green. Red is basically just a less ripe version of a green pepper. But here in New Mexico, green chili goes on everything from breakfast burritos to burgers, enchiladas,
mac and
anything.
cheese. I tried the mac and cheese last night.
Yeah, which is bomb in my opinion.
Yes, it was good.
And so, I think when you come to New Mexico, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't partake in some form of chili.
And I'm guessing, like from the jump, as soon as you find like one of the concessionaires in the terminal, they definitely have that option available.
Yeah, chili everywhere. What I think is really cool is if you embrace it the way that you have on your way out, you can actually buy frozen packed chili, and they sell it to you in like a cooler bag. So you can bring chili home with you. And that's like one of those like little known facts about the airport that when I came on and I started revamping social, it was one of the things that I tried to talk about a lot because people didn't even know that it existed. And you've got, locals that have moved away that want to bring chili home. You've got visitors that come in and fall in love with the chili. And it's actually pretty affordable for an airport to buy the chili there. And you're already through TSA, so
you might have to snag some.
Oh, yeah. There's no might about it. It's happening. Yeah.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. A lot of people, when they think about Albuquerque aviation, first think about hot air balloons. I know I mentioned it a little while ago. How does the airport get involved with that?
Sure. So, unfortunately, I love ballooning and I'm kind of obsessed with Balloon Fiesta, but I haven't always been super involved on the ops side when it comes to how we interface with Balloon Fiesta. But balloon pilots have 2 radios, essentially. One where they communicate with other balloon pilots, particularly during Balloon Fiesta, because we're launching anywhere from 250 to 500 balloons at one time during that event.
It's like Oshkosh, but with more helium.
Yeah, for sure. So they talk to each other, I'm below you, I'm above you.
Is the radio protocol pretty similar to what you'd get with like tower chatter?
Yeah, and so that's where I was going. So they have the one that they use consistently throughout their flight, but then when they pass a certain threshold in the airspace, they'll talk directly to the Albuquerque Tower.
Wow.
And so, of course we prepare for Balloon Fiesta. We know that, for that week and a half that there's a chance that we might have balloons enter the airspace. One of the things that makes Albuquerque unique and perfect for ballooning is what's called the Albuquerque box, which at a certain elevation, the balloons will travel south because of the winds. And then if they lower elevation, they'll travel north. So they can essentially just make a square box over and over.
Kind of a loop.
Yeah,
Almost,
like
yeah.
a loop almost.
Interesting.
No.
And that's 9 times out of 10 when you're flying a balloon in Albuquerque, you have that effect. And so we don't always get balloons entering the airspace because they know, I've gone X miles south, I need to head back north.
Yeah, you can't just roll it to a gate.
Yeah, no.
So is that, as a rider, is that subtle?
Oh, totally. Balloons will only fly in winds that are single digits. It's very dependent on weather. No moisture, no winds above 9-10 miles an hour, because similar to sailing, you're totally dependent on the wind to get you where you need to go or want to go. And so I was telling Jake earlier, that's sort of one of the situations where if we end up with a balloon pilot in our airspace and they're like, look, I don't have enough fuel to get further south than the airport, then that's, when we're like, okay,
Right.
go ahead and land.
Now we'll talk.
Yeah.
And they land on the runway?
We've had a couple of balloons. I would say at least a balloon a year during Fiesta will land on the airfield somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So as a total aside, I learned this the other day when we landed, that the Sunport's tower and RDU's tower are the exact same.
They
No
are.
way, really?
Yeah, the
Exactly.
same
That's
design.
cool.
Yeah.
We both were snapping pictures real quick.
Oh,
I've
wow,
always
that's so
joked.
cool.
I've always joked about, for April Fool's one year, to post a tweet to say, "Hey, we've decided to trade towers with Albuquerque now." I believe Charleston, South Carolina, has the same tower that we both now do. So
Interesting.
yeah, maybe the FAA just said, Control C, Control V. But
That's funny.
I think that's a cool tidbit. I never knew that.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It was just a great view. It's awesome. I'm super excited to kind of get out some more and experience more of Albuquerque.
so what's next for the Sunport? It sounds like, kind of emerging from the pandemic, kind of like RDU did, things are going well for Albuquerque, that the airport's growing again. What's next for them?
We spent the last 5 years really building up marketing, communications, really making a name for the Sunport in a way that we haven't before. I said earlier that people are really passionate about everything local, and that includes the airport. When I came on 5 years ago, I made it my mission to create a brand voice. And so it's my hope that continues even after my departure, and some of my coworkers have left and moved on to other airports.
Like ours.
Yeah, actually.
Right? I think we just got someone.
Yeah,
coming
you've
on
got
our
a native
commercial
New
market.
Mexican now
I love
at
it.
RDU.
We're going to be better for it.
Yes.
So I'm glad you mentioned socials. Before we let you go, can you tell our listeners how to follow Albuquerque on social media?
Yeah, so we're at ABQ Sunport on every platform except Instagram, where I cannot get a hold of whoever made that handle in 2016. On Instagram, we are at ABQ_Sunport.
Got it.
Good stuff.
Stephanie Kids, thanks
Yes.
again for joining the podcast.
Thanks, guys.
So appreciate you joining
it.
us.
All right, I'm excited about our special guest today. Amanda Ohbayashi is the digital marketing specialist for Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. Amanda, welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Good to have you all the way down here in Raleigh.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So first things first, can you describe your first impressions of North Carolina?
Yes, well, I love North Carolina. I've been coming down here almost annually for many years now. But this is my first time in the Raleigh-Durham area, and it's been really great.
Awesome.
Been spending some time here with my mom. She's considering a move down here, so we're just kind of checking it all out, and it's been really fun so far.
That's great. We can give you some tips for sure.
Yeah.
So Amanda, tell us a little bit about what your role is at MWAA. I know that you're working with 2 airports there.
Yeah. So I manage all of our social media for both Reagan National Airport and Washington Dulles International Airport. So we have 2 airports that serve the Metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. And, well, I've never worked for just one airport, so I can't compare it to that. But it's been a lot of fun for the past 4-ish years now. We kind of had to figure out personalities for each airport brand, but I think we're in a good place with that, and just kind of distinguishing between one is more international based and then
One's domestic.
DCA is much more domestic.
That was going to be my question for you. Like, how do you do that persona? Like, you're talking in 2 different voices consistently for very different airports.
Yeah, I think, DCA is a little bit, we call them the fun little sister or brother airport, even though I think technically it's an older airport. But because we have those more domestic routes, we are a little bit more fun, and our CRO calls it personality.
Yeah.
Has a little bit more personality. But Dulles, we also like to have fun and play along with some of our international airlines and kind of have fun in that way. And we get the bigger planes at Dulles, so that's a lot.
That makes
Right.
sense. More long
fun.
haul,
Yeah.
transatlantic. Yeah. So do you kind of have to find yourself taking on the personality of your region? Like, yeah, I imagine there's a lot of DC culture that pops up. I know that we've joked about one of my favorite restaurants in the whole wide world, Ben's Chili Bowl, has a location at DCA.
Okay.
So I imagine, there's a lot of that comes into play when you're interacting with people, having to take that persona on a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. DC is very proud of the culture that they have and the local eateries and businesses we have. So definitely try to lean into that as much as we can. In the same regards, we try to avoid all talk of politics because
sure.
it's
Right.
so politically charged. We don't want to upset anybody. So often, you see senators and congressmen walking through the halls, and we don't really do anything with that. Just to keep the peace.
Well, I think Jake lives in a similar world. He handles the majority of our social media, but it may almost be a hot of a topic as politics in this region that everyone considers RDU, Raleigh-Durham, one location. So there's an ongoing Twitter battle forever in this region about RDU. Jake, you could probably talk more about this.
We're definitely intentional about trying to take that city personality on, but when you're dealing with two very different cities, love them both. I live in Raleigh, but I spend a ton of time in Durham. Mary, obviously you've got a ton of background from Durham, so we kind of have to have a blend of two.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique challenge, but you
Fun.
get that city pride for sure.
Yeah.
I would be remiss not to ask you about one of my favorite all-time airport gates, 35X,
Yes.
and what it was like getting to finally take that out to pasture, so to speak.
It was really, really fun, actually. We had been planning it for years, and the night of the final flight closing, we were there. We were live streaming it.
Very cool.
American had some, special people lined up to wave goodbye to the final plane, which... Funny story, I found out I actually had to go back to the gate because there was
Oh my gosh. In true 35X fashion.
everybody had to be offloaded. But yeah, so then the next morning, we were back at the airport early for the first flight to come in, and it was just really fun knowing people were so excited about it. We had some fun kind of poking at ourselves knowing that it was closing and enjoying that little bit of fun. Even our CEO was enjoying some joke about that. There's a lot of fun articles about it.
So public affairs, communications in general at an airport is nothing I ever imagined I'd be doing, but here I am, and we have a very small team. What about your team?
Yeah, so we are broken up into a couple of different ways. So we have our comms team, who's really more responsible for all of the public affairs and media relations, and then the digital team, which is what I sit on. We run all of our digital assets, so social and digital, the website, things like that. We're separated, but we are all working together.
Gotcha. So you have a team of digital media?
There are 3 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Small
one
but
Jake.
mighty. Yeah.
There's one Jake.
I run the social, and then we have website specialist as well, who is our go-to website, everything. He's amazing. And then our manager above kind of manages both. So
Very cool.
I guess when you have 2 airports too,
Right.
you have to double your firepower a little bit.
there's a lot
That's
going
interesting.
on.
Yeah. What's something interesting you guys are cooking up here in the next few months at either airport, I guess?
Well, we just recently launched nonstop flights to Madrid on Iberia Airlines.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, that's
So
exciting.
Wow.
that was exciting. Iberia is
Beautiful
a
city.
new airline for us. So that was a really fun day. And then we also launched a nonstop flight to Lomé, Togo, which is on Ethiopian Airlines, but it's their first flight to there from the States.
That's great.
Inaugural flights. We're all
Yeah.
about those.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Green with envy right now.
I know. Good stuff. We try to give our listeners some inside info all the time, whether it's looking for different things in the terminals or across the airport campus. Is there anything that you would tell someone that's flying through either airport to look for, whether it's art or food or aesthetically, just any insider information you want to share with us?
Yes, if you are flying into DCA, you want to sit on, which I guess if you're looking at the airplane, you want to sit on the right side of the airplane.
Okay.
On the window side to get that monument view as you come in. It follows what's called the river visual and takes a hard turn at the monument, and you get this really cool shot of everything from Washington Monument down to Capitol Hill, and it's amazing.
Very cool.
My favorite is at night too because it's all lit up, but there are some really amazing views.
That's awesome. I just flew into Chicago and I felt the same. I'm like, oh, the lights. It's just like breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's such a cool view.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're on the other side of the plane, you see the Pentagon and you come in, so there's really no bad window seat.
There it is.
Nice. Well, before we go, we have to make sure that people follow your airports on social media. If you will tell us the handles for them.
Yes, we are Reagan_airport for DCA and Dulles_airport for Dulles.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Thanks a lot. Wow, not just one interview, 2 great interviews this episode, Mary.
Yes, Stephanie and Amanda's energy is toxic. They're fun to be with. They're creatives. You know, when we all get in the same room and we're speaking the same language, it's just good vibes, good energy. I love it.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear if you guys like having these other airports on our podcast. We're trying to encourage them. As you hear, these guys are so wonderful to talk to and have their own unique experiences. And we're trying to make the fly angle not just about RDU, but about, airport life in general. So if you want to hear from other airports, let us know. Tell us which ones, and we'll go stalk them online on their Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts until they agree to come on the podcast.
Yes, and we always love to hear from you. You can still submit your airmail questions to us at communications@rdu.com.
And while you're at it, follow us on Instagram at FlyRDU or on Twitter and Facebook at RDU Airport.
And if you're enjoying the podcast like we know you are, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
5 stars.
We'll see you soon.
See you guys.